Okay, so yeah, this is another Nintendo related video, but don't worry, I plan on making another video that isn't Nintendo related. But then again, I also plan on making a Mario Sunshine video. Anyway, I hate Nintendo. As a company, I mean. I love their games though. Kirby's one of my favorite Nintendo franchises besides Mario. And Kirby is known for having great games and also being one of the most powerful characters in fiction for some reason. Unfortunately though, there is a blemish on the Kirby franchise. And that game is Kirby Star Allies. Yeah, for some reason, people really don't like this game. And that might be because of its launch. When the game launched, it was noticeably bare bones and lacked some content. It also lacked a lot of Dream Friends, which is basically the game's main gimmick. Though this game isn't the only Nintendo Switch game with that issue, because Mario sports games are notorious for this kind of practice, which Nintendo kind of ended up abandoning, but I'm not completely sure if they did. Anyway, Kirby Star Allies received a lot of updates that added new content, and most of it added new characters or old characters, I guess. And Update 3.0 added a brand new story mode called Heroes in Another Dimension. And this one is much harder than the base game. And also in that same update, they added even more characters and also added a brand new Ultimate Choice difficulty named Soul Melter EX. Kirby Star Allies was well received by critics, but it was considered disappointing, mediocre, and also repetitive and forgettable by a lot of people. Also, a lot of people thought the game was really easy. Yeah, it really was just extremely easy. And you know, it's quite unfortunate, especially considering the fact that Kirby Planet Robobot was the last game before this one, and it was so much better. There was one thing that everyone unanimously agreed on, and that was the fact the game was one of the best looking Nintendo Switch games. And you know what? I'm starting to get some weird deja vu from this game. The way that everyone is mixed on Kirby Star Allies reminds me of a certain Sonic game. I never thought I'd be bringing up Sonic Heroes again, but this whole thing reminds me of that. For example, Sonic Heroes is a pretty good game that has a mixed reception. Kirby Star Allies is also a pretty good game that has mixed reception, though I'd argue that Kirby has less issues than Sonic Heroes. But anyway, in this video, I'll be going over Kirby Star Allies and going into pretty good detail about it. And maybe by the end of this video, you can decide whether or not this game is bad. Anyway, time to talk about the... Okay, so the gameplay for Kirby Star Allies is par for the course when it comes to a Kirby game. There aren't really many changes compared to the other games. Then again, Robobot didn't change squat but added mech, but despite that, it felt like it was a completely brand new Kirby game. This game, on the other hand, plays exactly like the 3DS games with barely any changes. So yeah, you can press A to jump, B to suck, and if you suck up certain enemies, they can give you copy ability. And in this game, there are 26 copy abilities, which is probably the most a Kirby game ever had. Maybe? I don't really know. Anyway, every Kirby game usually has a gimmick. Like for example, Return to Dreamland has the super abilities, Kirby Triple Deluxe has the Hypernova, and Kirby Planet Robobot has, well, the Robobot. And this game has friends as the gimmick. I don't know why though. Anyway, friends can give you upgraded abilities like Fire Sword or an Electricity Bomb, which is pretty cool. But besides those, there are the friend formations like the Friend Star, the Friend Circle, the Friend Bridge, and the Friend Train. And there's also another one that I'll talk about a bit later, and not in this gameplay segment. Yeah, despite all of these cool abilities being added into the game, it doesn't really improve the experience much. I feel like the levels in this game don't utilize these abilities and their elements enough. Like, they try, of course, but it's not enough. Besides abilities, they have these other types of friends named Dream Friends, and they have unique abilities and combos, and they can range from being okay at best to completely broken. And the most overpowered Dream Friends are Magolor and the three Mage Sisters, and Chef Kawasaki. Okay, I only include him because he can heal you and comes in handy when you're in some tough situations. Every Kirby game so far has had different unique collectibles. For example, Return to Dreamland had energy spears, and they were used to help progress through the story, and they opened up stuff like minigames and ability challenges, which was pretty neat. In Triple Deluxe, we had sunstones and keychains, which were useless, but hey, at least the keychains were cool to look at. And in Kirby Planet Robobot, we had code cubes, which were also useless, but stickers, on the other hand, were not. You can place them on your Robobot, and also some of these stickers are just hilarious to look at. Now, guess what we got in Star Allies? Puzzle pieces. And when you get enough of them, you complete a puzzle. You can get celebration pictures, which are cool, but ultimately useless. I think the keychains were cooler though. This game also has multiplayer up to 4 players. When I was playing both the Ultimate Choice and the other game mode named Guest Star, playing with a homeless guy who just really wanted to play some Kirby Star Allies. I think that's it for the main gameplay. Now it's time to get into the main story.
Hot dog, taco, hamburger. Hot dog, taco, hamburger. You only got 3 things on this menu.
So the main story begins with a cultist trying to resurrect his Dark Lord. And the ritual goes wrong, and the Jamba heart blows up, and its pieces get flung across the solar system. And then one crashes into DDD's castle, and then he gets corrupted by it. And then Kirby gets hit with a friend heart instead of a Jamba heart, but I don't know where it came from. But yeah, Waddle Dee starts stealing food from Dreamland, and now Kirby's got to beat up DDD again. Yeah, the beginning of this game is just literally the first Kirby game story. Anyway, now it's time to get into World 1 of Kirby Star Allies. Okay, so World 1 of this game is quite lame, to say the least. The first stage is Green Gardens, which is very plain. I mean, it is a tutorial stage, so I can't really say much about it. And this level introduces all of the main mechanics of the game, such as copy abilities, friend abilities. It's a fine tutorial level, but the other Kirby games had far better levels. And the second level isn't much better. It shows off friend abilities and also introduces the big switch, which when pressed unlocks either a extra level or a dream palace, which allows you to summon or conjure a dream friend. For example, I conjured Mars. Saying I conjured something makes me sound like a wizard. I don't even know what to say about the third stage. It's just a forgettable stage. But hey, it's got a big switch and big balls. Okay, I'm never going to say that again. Okay, so the big switch in this level opens up a extra stage, and the extra stage is better than most of the levels here in this world. And it plays classic music from the very first Kirby game. Like, for example, the music from the first level named Green Greens. Yeah, it plays that music from that level. And that music actually plays a lot in this game, and it's kind of annoying. And yeah, this level really isn't anything special, to be honest. The next level is quite short, but if you stand in front of this loop in the background, stand there for a bit, a door will appear at the entrance for this room, and then you go all the way back to this tree here, and you enter a Howl room. And then you can get the friend star and absolutely shred Wispy Wood's health bar. Anyway, now it's time to go to King Digi's castle. This stage is probably the best one in World 1, but unfortunately it's pretty short, and despite being the best level in this world, it doesn't really have anything to write home about. Anyway, it uses the friend throw a lot, and also it has a secret room inside the window here. But yeah, DDD is the boss of this level, and this boss is cool, but he has such a little amount of health. So his first phase is as basic as his boss fight from the first Dreamland game. But the second phase has some changes. Big changes. He gets muscular and starts throwing crud at you like a monkey. And he starts spinning around on the pillars. Not like a monkey though. Well, after defeating DDD, you can throw a friend heart at him and to get him as an ally without going to the Dream Palace. Anyway, that's the end of World 1. Time to get into World 2. Okay, so World 2 is Planet Popstar, and each area is a level instead of being its own world, which kind of sucks to be honest, but oh well. Anyway, level 1 is a one-trick pony level. It really just wants you to use the wind friend ability for some reason, and literally every puzzle in this level uses that ability. And also there's a big switch in this level. It unlocks a Dream Palace. The end of this level also uses the friend circle formation. But yeah, besides that, this level is just lame. Level 2 is a uninteresting beach level. Unlike the last level, the puzzles here are actually kind of cool. They utilize the parasol power up and its friend ability. You have to use the parasol to cover up the waterfall so the fire can pass through the rope, so it can blow up the explosive barrels. But besides that, the puzzles in this level ain't that interesting. Yeah, before I forget, there's also a big switch in this level. So the extra level is cool, I guess. I mean, it's kind of fun. It utilizes the spider power up for a lot of its puzzles, but yeah, it's a decent level. Next level is an ice level, and surprisingly, it's not boring as heck. It's a very short stage, nothing much to write home about, however, but it does have some monkey puzzles though. And oh boy, volcano stage. Do you know what I'm gonna say next? Yeah, it's lame. Return to Dreamland had the best of volcano stages, and this game does not, which is quite disappointing. Just like level 1, it utilizes the wind power up for most of its puzzles, which is also quite lame. Anyway, there's a big switch in this level, and whatever, I'm already getting tired of this. The extra level is a bit better, but I really have nothing else to say about this level. For some reason, I feel like Sonic Heroes had some better levels than honest. Maybe it's because I was shorter. Probably. Anyway, here's the final level of World 2. It's a pretty boring level. It gets more interesting when you use the friend star, though. It ends up feeling like a scuffed Planet Robobot stage, though. Anyway, you get to fight Meta Knight at the end of the stage. His boss is cool, I guess. It's unfortunate that his boss is painfully easy. Like, he has some cool attacks, like he can split himself into 4, and he does his rock attack, which seems kind of backwards, to be honest, but, whatever. Anyway, when you beat him, you can throw a friend heart at him to get him as a dream friend. The cultists have arrived and planted their spaceship on planet Popstar. How does this planet even work? Whatever. Anyway, this is the best world in the game. It's got the best music and the best levels in the game. Anyway, it's time to get into the first level. And you know what? I really like the first level. I like the aesthetic. The level design is surprisingly good for this game standards. And I also like the music in this level as well. And the boss of this level is Pawn and Con. They are a reused boss fight from Kirby Dream Line 3. And this boss gets reused again later. Anyway, after beating them, you have to throw a friend heart at them for them to open the gate. And that's it for this level. Level 2 is great, especially because it introduces the best power-up in the game, aka Staff. And Shock Staff is the best combination in this game. It is so broken. But yeah, this level's pretty good and uses multiple abilities for puzzles. And you know what? That's great. Also, you can do this cool monkey puzzle for a big switch and it unlocks an extra stage. The extra stage is bad. It's just a ambush simulator. There's a lot of that in this game. Level 3 is kind of a low point. It's got a lot of saws. It uses the ESP plus rock ability for like 2 puzzles. And that's it for the level. It's mad short. And you get to fight this blue lady named Francisca and her boss is very easy. And I'm going to be saying that so much, man. Anyway, Shock Staff is your best friend during the entirety of the main story. So just keep spamming that and you'll beat her completely easily. Well, yeah, there's also a big switch here and it unlocks another Dream Palace. Level 4 is interesting, I guess. It's a pretty tall stage with like no puzzles. And before it gets good, it just ends. Oh yeah, and before I forget, there's another big switch in this level. And it unlocks another extra stage. And I mean, the extra stage is fine, but I just didn't expect it to be a train. And here's another short level. This one uses bomb plus spark for puzzles, which is pretty cool. And there's another big switch in this stage, and geez Louise, there's a lot of switches in this game's world, man. When you get to the end of the stage, you gotta fight this angry red lady named Flamberge, and yes, she does use a Flamberge. Her boss is extremely easy, by the way. Just avoid being kebabbed by her and spam, and you'll be completely fine. I would talk about the extra stage, but I don't think I care enough to talk about that, to be honest. It's just very forgettable. Also, this game's very formulaic. I can't believe I just noticed that. Anyway, this is the final stage of World 3. It is very short. Like, I'm talking about extremely short. It only has like 3 rooms, and then you get to the boss of this stage. And you have to fight this lady named Zan Partisan, and yes, she does use a partisan. Very on the nose with these names. And also, I think this just might be the loudest Kirby game I've ever played. Why is it so loud? Anyway, after defeating her, she gets mad and destroys the place. And now you gotta get into the friend circle and get the fudge out of here. So this level technically isn't very short, but most of it uses the friend circle and the friend star, so I guess it technically is very short still. Anyway, when you reach a certain point in this level, you can wait here for a minute or 2, and then a door will spawn. And then you get access to another Howl room. And that's it for World 3. World 4, Far-Flung Starlight Heroes. You could have just called it Space, dang it. Also, the description of this world stinks. Oh man, it's gonna make me say the C word. Would you believe me if I said this was the final world in the game? Yeah, you wouldn't believe it, right? Well, too bad, it is. And on a quality scale, it is way worse than the last world, and it makes me so mad. I can't wait to play Stranger of Paradise again. Oh wait, that's for my next video. Anyway, time to get into level 1. This is probably one of the best looking levels in a video game ever. Oh man. Despite how good it looks, it's unfortunately very flat. I mean, it's got some hills, but it's still just a lame tail level, man. The graphics were wasted on this level. Yeah, there's another big switch in this level, and the next level is basically a continuation of this one, but it's got a boss at the end. Well, 2 actually. So there's a Wispy Woods here, and then when you beat him, you have to fight another one named Yeegy Woods. He's like Wispy Woods, but old.
You're so old. Where's your wife? Go home to your family, dude.
He's got wrinkled cherries instead of apples. And yeah, this boss is very easy. Just spam it with either a staff or yo-yo and you'll win quite easily. Okay, so from here on out, every level's just gonna reuse level themes from World 1 and 2. So, level 3 is another beach level. I don't understand this at all. If you wanted to reuse level themes, why not just make a whole world centered around set theme? This is why Jam Bastion was so good, because every level was consistent. But World 4 over here, everything is so inconsistent and makes me mad. It's just a repeat of World 2, and it sucks. A lot of these levels are just boring and lame. And the puzzles are so easy as well. And there's really nothing memorable about these levels. And once again, it just makes me mad and sad. Anyway, this level is one of the lamest beach levels I've ever played in a video game and in a Kirby game. And yeah, there's a big switch in this level. Okay, so there's another boss stage. It has a tiny bit of level design, but the main reason why you're here is because of the boss, of course. And it's just Pawn and Con again. Except now they are silver and gold. Yeah, this boss is extremely easy, man. Just use whatever power-up you want. They'll die extremely fast. On to the next level. So this is the worst level in the game. It's just a mini boss rush. It's nothing special. You can actually get a harder version of this level by going down here and then going back up. And now there's a door here. And now you get 2 mini bosses instead of 1, which is cool, I guess. You get better rewards in this harder version as well. Like, it really isn't that much harder than the default version, but whatever. Anyway, the next stage primarily uses the friend star. Now, this level isn't bad, but they already did this before in World 2. But yeah, there's a boss at the end of the stage, and by the way, this boss does not appear again in the ultimate choice. So basically, you gotta cut her arms off and blow them up, which sounds all kinds of fudged up. But this is the same franchise where you shoot a giant eyeball and make it bleed, so whatever. But yeah, that's all this boss consists of. Another ice level, yay! It probably sounds like I hate this game, but I don't. I actually do like this game, but oh man, some of these levels are just so lame. And this ice level is just another example. I really don't know what to say about this level. It's just an ice level. Like, it's not bad, but it's not good either. And there's a big switch in this level. Anyway, the next level is another boss stage, and it consists of elevators. And then after reaching the end of this elevator simulator, you can fight Francisca again. And same boss from earlier. Still just as easy to defeat. Okay, so this is the best level in World 4. Planet Tawara is very good. So this level kind of reuses the same level theme as the Meta Knight level from World 2, but it's at least somewhat different. Anyway, this level uses fire and ice and the staff copy ability for a lot of its puzzles. And the puzzles are easy, but they're definitely more interesting than the other puzzles from World 4. And also there's these sections in the level where you can get crushed. What if you go into an area that has a gap you can survive? Kirby Return to Dreamland also had something similar to this. And there's this last part of the level where the ground begins to rise and you have to avoid being crushed. Definitely feels like something from an older Kirby game. And that's it for this level. Now the next level is another boss stage, and in this one you gotta fight Krakow. Well, 2 Krakows. And this boss is once again very easy. Just use Shock Staff and you will destroy the poor sods. Okay, so this is one of the last levels of the game before the end, and this level just kind of stinks. Like, it's just really basic, and I don't understand why. Like, this is literally one of the last levels in the game. Like, what the heck were they doing when they made this game? Anyway, there was this puzzle here that required the cleaning power-up and the rock power-up for like a friend ability, but I just used the hammer, so I really did not need to do the puzzle the right way. And there's also a big switch in this level, and it's the last one in the game. Wow. Anyway, now it's time to do the boss stage, and this level is also very lame. And also, the boss is just reused. It's just Flamberge again. Like, who cares? Who actually cares? Okay, I was gonna say that I was gonna talk about the extra stages, but you know what? I don't care. These levels are just kind of lame, kind of boring. You can play them yourself when you play the game. I'm just gonna skip over them. Because unlike the older Kirby games, these extra stages are just kind of lame. I mean, they're fine, they're okay, but I just don't feel like talking about them. So I'm just gonna move on to the final level. So here it is, the final level, Jambanjo Base. This level isn't that bad. I actually don't mind this level, but too bad it isn't as good as Planet Tawara. Once again, this level has a ton of ambushes. I don't get why the devs were so obsessed with these. This level is just mostly a series of ambushes and friend formations. When you get to the end of this level, you can basically float up here, press up on this star, and get access to another Howl Room. And that's it for this level. And now it's time for the final boss stage. And it has a cool name, but besides that, this level kind of sucks, bro. It just consists of moving blocks and random enemies. It feels like an amateur Mario Maker level. And also, this puzzle room also sucks because it's not even a puzzle. Now, after that disappointing excuse for a level, it's time for the final bosses of the game. So when you arrive, you meet Zan Partisan as she tries to stop you. Her boss, once again, just very easy. Barely any changes from her Jam Bastion version. So you can just use the sock staff to just shred her health bar. And after shredding her, you meet Highness and he just smacks her out of the way. And then he starts yapping about the Dark Lord and his birthday or something. And now you gotta fight him. And his first phase is just embarrassingly easy, man. You can shred his health bar quite easily with Shock Staff. And all he does is throw dark energy balls and occasionally use the magic. But yeah, this phase is very easy. And when you deplete his health bar, his face is revealed and he kind of looks like that one guy from the TV show called Doug. I think it was on Nickelodeon at one point. And this phase is pretty interesting. He will throw his lackeys at you, and then at 50% health, he will use the friend circle formation, which is kind of cool. But yeah, this boss is still just very easy. Like, phase 2 is still like extremely easy. And when you defeat him, he sacrifices himself and his lackeys to his Dark Lord and summons Void Termina. And then the Jamba Heart will turn into a cloud of darkness and fly away. And now you must go after it. And then you get the Star Ally Sparkler, which is just the friend star, but like slightly different. And now it's off to the final boss. And so you arrive onto a flat area in space, and the Dark Cloud transforms to a hulking giant. And now you have to fight Void Termina. And this boss has 4 phases. So the first phase is the giant phase, and you have to hit these eyeballs to damage the armor on the health bar. And Void will punch the ground and make shock waves, and then he will also jump and start making shock waves. So make sure you jump here as well to dodge the shock waves. And at half health, he will start using sword arms, so make sure you utilize the dodge mechanic here. And after depleting its health bar, you'll go inside Void, and now you have to fight the heart. And yeah, this phase is so short, you can literally destroy it in like 30 seconds. And it's got barely any attacks anyway, so... Anyway, after giving the boss a heart attack, you can now proceed to the next phase, where Void will grow wings and become a bird. This phase is completely different from the first one, and you still have to shoot the eyeballs to destroy the armor on the health bar. But now when it flies over you, it'll slow down, and then you can rapidly shoot its eyeball and repeat this, and you'll win. Oh, and also watch out for lasers. When you deplete its health bar, it's time to go back inside and fight Void's soul. And this version of the boss is the easiest one besides the heart. The music here is just green grains again, but it's still definitely one of my favorite Kirby songs, to be honest, because I really like this boss theme. Anyway, this boss can corrupt your teammates. So when they get corrupted, just throw a friend heart at them and they'll get restored. And also, this boss will transform into dark matter from the older Kirby games and start shooting lasers, so make sure you avoid them. And after you beat them up, it'll explode. So you leave Void's body, and then Void will also leave, but Void gets mad, and then this triggers a Dragon Ball Beam Clash, and you spam the designated button or spin the analog stick, and after this you send your spooky ghostly friends after Void. He fudging dies, and then an explosion happens, and then you're stranded in space, and then your dream friends and the Warp Star will come back, and then you will return to Planet Popstar. The end. I feel like the final battle was definitely the best part of the main story. Like I said, it's up and downs, but yeah, this game was not that bad, to be honest. Well, the main story was not that bad, to be honest. Like, it's just not the best Kirby game, but it's also not the worst one either. But even after beating the main story, there's still much to do. So this game has quite a few other game modes. Not as much as Kirby Superstar Ultra, but it still has quite a few. Anyway, let me get into the first one. Chomp Champs. I hate this sub-game. I really do. So you just chop down a really long tree and try to get the highest score, which is quite simple. And it doesn't sound that hard, but it gets much harder at level 3. There is more stuff you have to deal with, like these spiky balls named Gordos and then weird caterpillars. And also it's just much faster overall. Why is this minigame harder than the main story? Star Slam Heroes. With a name like this, you think it's a basketball minigame, but no. In this minigame, you have to hit a meteor with a baseball bat. It gets bigger in each mode, and there are 3 modes. Town Crisis, Country Crisis, and World Crisis. It gets big enough to threaten the entire world, which is completely crazy. So this minigame depends on timing, so you gotta get it right or you're gonna fail. The best time you have, the higher the score you can get. Sometimes you can even hit a UFO depending on your timing. But yeah, this minigame is definitely easier than Chop Champs, which is kind of funny. So after completing the game, you will unlock 4 things in the main story. You'll unlock another extra level, which is the true final extra level. And outside of the main story, you will unlock the ultimate choice and guest star and heroes in another dimension. I'll talk about the ultimate choice last, so I'll talk about guest star first. So yeah, it's just the main story again, but you can play as other characters. And I mean, it's alright, but it could have been better. When you play as other characters, they have some different levels, like the first and last level will be completely different. But despite that, it's still just the same as the main story. But oh my gosh, man, the devs were so obsessed with these god-dang ambush sections. And there are so many in this game, bro. Guest Star has more ambush sections than the main story, which is absurd. It feels like these sections were meant to increase the playtime of the game, and I would not be surprised if that were the case. But still, man, it really did not need to have so many of these. Anyway, moving on. So this mode does have a different final boss, and the final boss of this mode is Morpho Knight, and he is Judgment given a physical body, and I'm not joking about this. And he comes in the form of a butterfly. Specifically a orange and yellow butterfly, which appears in the older Kirby games, and he quite literally stole the body of Galactonite. I forgot to get the cutscene though, but he literally just lands on Galactonite and steals his body. Anyway, this boss is easy and he will just die in less than a minute, though it depends on who you play as. Okay, time to move on to the next game mode. So this is probably the best part of the game. Actual well-designed puzzles, challenging puzzles even, and this mode utilizes all of the power-ups in cool ways, and also it utilizes the dream friends in cool ways as well. And also the bosses and boss music in this game mode is peak, honestly. Level design here is also pretty good, and my favorite part of this game mode is in Dimension 1, and it's a section where you play as King Dedede, and you have to race against time to get the heart pieces, which is really neat. Also, this mode has harder versions of the bosses that you fought before, and oh gosh, they are much harder to...
The main story bosses.
Also, the main collectible in this game mode are heart pieces. Collect all 120 of them and you will get an S rank. Also, if you don't feel like collecting all of them, you can at least get 80 of them to get like the good ending of the game. So yeah, depending on how many you get a different ending. So when you go into the final dimension, you gotta fight Highness. And he's like a dark, fudged up version of Highness. And it's just a glimpse into the devs' dark reality. A full stare into their twisted mindset would make most go simply insane. So yeah, this boss is indeed a more difficult version of Highness. He's got more health and more attacks. And so he's got a dark, fudged up spirit bomb that he can use. I don't know how much damage it does, but most of the time, I just destroy it when I get the chance. Completing his health of 50% will trigger phase 2 of his fight, and it's a more difficult version of his OG battle. I already described it, so I'm gonna skip it. But yeah, after defeating the dark, fudged up version of Highness, now you gotta battle against the dark, fudged up version of the 3 Mage Sisters. And this battle isn't necessarily difficult, but it's more challenging than anything. Also, this is quite possibly the most challenging battle of the game. Well, besides a certain boss I'll talk about soon. Anyway, you gotta fight all the Mage Sisters at once, and getting their health bar to 50% will trigger phase 2. And all of them will use a special attack that will lag the game terribly. And there's also a chance that the game could crash during this attack, which is hilarious. And for some reason, my Elgato did not show how laggy the game got during this attack, which I find very strange. Anyway, after depleting their health bar, Kirby just simply frees them of their dark, twisted mindsets by throwing a big ol' heart at them. And once again, like I explained earlier, getting this ending depends on the heart pieces you get. So when you beat this game mode, you will complete one of the requirements for unlocking Soul Melter EX in the Ultimate Choice. To actually unlock Soul Melter EX, you gotta play Soul Melter. And so, now I'll move on to the next segment. So, this is the final segment of the video, and I'll only be talking about the 2 most important choices of the, well, Ultimate Choice, aka Soul Melter and Soul Melter EX. And if you're wondering, the Ultimate Choice is a boss rush mode with multiple levels you can choose. And to unlock stuff like Soul Melter, you gotta complete level 5 and complete the guest star game mode. I already did all that, so I can just hop straight into Soul Melter.
I'm not going to talk about everything from Soul Melter because these bosses are the same ones that I've shown earlier in the video. So I'm just going to go straight into the final boss, which actually has the most changes. So the final boss of Soul Melter is Void Terminal, obviously, and this boss has undergone some changes, so when he punches the ground, it spawns more shockwaves in the original fight. Also, when he jumps, he spawns like 3 shockwaves, but he jumps like 3 times, so that's like 9 shockwaves, which is insane. They unfortunately did not change the sword attack of this phase, so it's just as slow and easy to dodge as before. So my advice for this phase is to just jump and dodge whenever possible. And if you're playing co-op, which is what I was doing at the time, you can shoot a laser if both players hold B and let go of B at the same time. And if you do this consistently, you can destroy the armor pretty easily. Phase 2 didn't get changed much. All it does is attack a little more, but that's it. Magolor can absolutely shred its health bar extremely fast with the Black Hole and Ultra Sword. So phase 3 is a bit different. He shoots more arrows than before, and he shoots both fire and ice arrows. And when he does the electric spear attack, he starts rapidly firing them, which is something he did not do before. The axe slam attack has been changed a bit, and now he slams it down to the ground twice. The second time will spawn more shockwaves than it did in the original battle. Also, the laser attack has been changed, and now he shoots like 6 lasers, and then you gotta play hopscotch on the second set of lasers. My advice is to spam your own laser attack, well, if you're playing multiplayer, of course. But if you're not, then just use the charge blast by holding B. After beating Void Termina again, now it's time to go back inside. And this is where you fight Void Soul, the boss that has received the most changes. And he's got far more attacks than before, so of course he can still turn your allies against you. And now he has a cutter attack, and then he will go into the background, splitting himself into 4 and use a needle attack. And then the room will fill up with water, and then he will transform into dark matter and shoot an electricity laser into the water. So make sure you float upwards to avoid this attack. And then he will go into the background, split himself into 4 again, but this time he'll start bouncing around like a ball. Then he will transform into dark matter again and shoot more lasers. So if you're using a character like Magolor, I recommend using attacks that have invincibility frames like the Ultra Sword attack. And you can pair that up with a Black Hole for extra damage. And that's it for Void Soul. And it was definitely better than the OG battle, but now it's time to move on to Soul Melter EX. So Soul Melter EX can be accessed after beating Soul Melter by pressing up, A, and select. And then Kirby's eyes become soulless, which is crazy. Now it's time to start. So Parallel Woods is the first boss, and yeah, they turn Wispy Woods into a somewhat challenging battle. Well, I would say that if I didn't shred his health bar easily with a Black Hole and a big sword, yes, Magolor is overpowered. Battle 2 is just a bunch of mini bosses, so I'm gonna skip this. Battle 3 is Goldon and Silvox. And yeah, this boss is mad easy compared to everyone else in here. So Black Hole plus Big Sword destroys all. Battle 4 is Parallel Twin Krakow. And this one's easy. They didn't really change much. Phase 2 is very different. It is Big Krakow. And yeah, he is big and his attacks are big. So he does like the classic beam attack that he usually does, except he's big now, so makes that attack bigger. And sometimes you move and start summoning dark clouds with lightning that move in from the background into the foreground. And this boss is quite cool, but the ultimate choice version is far easier than the version in the Heroes in Another Dimension. Battle 5 is more mini bosses. Moving on. Battle 6 is Francisca, and she's basically the same but more aggressive. But yes, she's still an easy boss. Battle 7 is Flamberge, and just like the Francisca battle, she's almost exactly the same, but a bit more aggressive. Battle 8 is Zan Partisan. Do I really need to repeat myself? Moving on. So Battle 9 is Parallel Meta Knight. I find it kind of funny that they saved these guys for last, but it makes sense though, especially considering the fact that these are the hardest bosses in the game. Anyway, this fight is basically the same but on steroids. And at 50%, he will go into phase 2 and he will split himself. But he will use an attack where he can put you in an orb and you will continuously take damage. I avoided this attack, of course. And once again, these versions and the Ultimate Choice are way easier because once again, this fight would have taken a while in Heroes in Another Dimension. Battle 10 is Parallel King Dedede, and it's basically the same except for the fact that he's faster. And also when he jumps, he creates shockwaves. And then when he enters phase 2, he will break the ground immediately. And just like before, his jump attack will create shockwaves. And now when he throws fruit at you, he will also throw Gordos, aka the spiky balls with eyes. And also when he slams the ground, his arms will also create shockwaves. Yeah, this boss was pretty awesome though. My advice once again,
Black Hole plus Ultra Sword.
Battle 11 is Corrupt Highness.
I already talked about his battle earlier, so I'm just gonna move on. And battle 12 is, of course, the 3 Mage Sisters. I talked about this boss earlier. If you're playing as a character like Magalore, just spam a bunch of attacks that have invincibility frames. Like, for example, the Ultra Sword. And also, don't forget to pair it up with a Black Hole for massive damage. Battle 13 is Morpho Knight EX. Fun fact, this boss actually exists in Guest Star. But you have to play as the 3 Mage Sisters, and yeah, their playthrough is essentially just a hard mode. Anyway, this boss is just basically OG Morpho Knight if you took meth or something. This boss is pretty crazy. He can send the souls of the dead after you, and I'm not joking. And when he uses his Ultra Sword attack, he'll have these gravity fields that will suck you into the path of his sword. And then he has a Sword Rust attack where if he successfully hits you, he'll combo you to death. And yeah, this boss was pretty good. But oh man, I almost died when fighting him, dude. It's crazy. Okay, so here's the final battle of the game. Fundamentally, this is the same boss, but he is so much faster. Also, most of the eyes are open from the jump as well. And speaking of a jump, yeah, he jumps like 3 times now. And the third one has like 4 shockwaves. 2 on the ground and 2 in the air. Oh, and then he has this jump, punch combo. It has so many shockwaves. Also, the sword attack has been modified and now the AoE is so much larger. And now there are 2 cross waves. My advice for this battle is to survive. But if you're playing multiplayer like I was, spam the goddamn laser. Okay, now it's time to go inside of Void Termina, and Phase 2 was not changed much, but aesthetically wise, it's very cool looking. Okay, so Phase 3 was changed a bit. Just like Phase 1, most of the eyes can be shot when the battle begins. And also, now he shoots 8 arrows, and the axe attack has been changed. Now he slams it on the ground 3 times. The first one has 1 shockwave, and the second time has like 2 shockwaves. But the third one has 3 shockwaves plus some additional homing shockwaves. The shock spear attack also has been changed, and now it's slower, but now it has shockwaves. I've said shockwaves like 80 times already, man. This is crazy. Yeah, this boss has a ton of AoE attacks, and I don't get why. It reminds me of Elden Ring. The laser attack has been changed completely. Now he summons 2 crowns to shoot like 8 lasers, and then 3 crowns to shoot 3 repeating lasers, and then he will summon 4 crowns to shoot 1 big pink laser. They'll follow you and repeat at either the left or right of where you are. And this is the scariest attack in the game. And my advice is to survive. And if you're playing multiplayer, then the friend laser is your friend. Literally. Now it's time for Phase 4. And the most dramatic change is that Void Soul has been changed to Astral Birth Void. And the background that appears here is from the final boss of Kirby Dream Land 3. I don't know if it comes from the normal version or the boss rush version. And it's kind of a deep cut. But this boss starts out exactly the same, but now he shoots lasers, which is cool, I guess. I don't know if the cutter attack has been changed or not, but now the ball attack happens earlier. It's same with the needle attack, except now he does it twice. And then he will do the ball attack, except he doesn't split himself into 4. And also, now it's faster, and also water will rise up as well. And then he will transform into Dark Matter and does an attack from Dark Mind, who was the final boss of Kirby and the Amazing Mirror. Also, by this point of the boss, the music should change, and it becomes like a sad version of Green Greens. I just thought it was neat that it does that. Anyway, he will then turn into a fireball and start flying everywhere. My advice is to just use the, okay, not the black hole attack, but when you jump and press like L or R as Magalore, you will hide into like a dimension or something like that. When Void does this attack, make sure you use that. And also the Dark Matter laser attack wasn't really changed, but then again, I defeated him before I could see it. And then when you beat him, he will smile and make a very similar face to Kirby and then explode. Also, for some reason, the game will slow down, and I have no idea why it does that. Also, when you beat Astral Birth Void, you'll unlock the option to change Kirby's appearance to how he looked in the first Kirby Dream Land game for the Game Boy, which is pretty cool. And that was it for the ultimate choice and the entirety of Kirby Star Allies. I really think that anything that isn't the main story of this game is really good. Like, seriously, man. The main story of this game suffers from being extremely boring and having either mediocre level design or just straight up trash. And then there's the secret third option where they're all right, but not, you know, actually good. But Heroes in Another Dimension did not suffer from that. It was really good from beginning to end. Guest Star was pretty meh, unless you're playing as Magalore.
or the 3 mage sisters. The fact that you have to play as other characters is not really a good sign. But my question is, where did it go wrong? Why did this game end up the way it is, aka a mixed bag? Well, to be honest, I have no idea. I've tried looking up this stuff, besides Wikipedia, of course, about the development on this game. And you know what? I got clean nothing. My biggest complaint about this game is, why didn't they just let it cook for longer? Why the post-launch content? Why does this game only run 30 FPS when Mario Odyssey runs 60 FPS consistently? It is questions like these that keep me up at night, and I fear that I may never get the answer to my questions. So the question is Kirby Star Allies actually packed? Well, my answer is no. But it depends on who plays it. Someone's gonna think that this is the greatest game ever made, or someone will think that this game is the worst video game ever made. And then there are people like me who think that the game is either good or just okay. Well, that's about it for me, dog. I'm out of here.